Hi everyone and welcome to week 8. I hope things are going well for you. I just got done grading a lot of WAPers and was really impressed by all of the work that you are doing. I am not someone to easily give out a 30, but gave out a number of those this week. So keep up the really good work. You are almost done with your first student and then we'll be moving into the second student, and before you know it, the semester will be over. I did want to make sure that you're all aware that your running record homework assignment was graded, and then I also put the answer key up on week 8 in Titanium, so feel free to compare your results to mine. I think some of you did a better job tracking the miscues even, because I noticed a couple of people had 13, 14 miscues, whereas I only had 11, so definitely check that out. All right, our readings for week 8. Keep in mind that this week is focused on administering the QRI, and next week is focused on scoring the QRI. So all of our readings this week will be about how to administer it, as well as the lectures and screencasts, whereas next week we're talking about how to score it, which is why your WAPR number 5 will not be due until next week. So please read the QRI chapters 1 through 5, pages 1 through 9, or pages 1 to 39, which again are about how to administer it. I would watch some of the video clips in part 1 of the DVD so that you can actually see it in action. I will show you a sample of myself administering it to my student in the part 5 of lectures this week. Also skim through the testing materials in chapter 14 so you know what to look like. Maybe you're going to have to make your copies and get prepared for your student. All right, so those are the readings. Assignments this week. It is a lighter week, which is good news for you and I both. There is a video due. We are going to attempt to submit this video using Google Drive. Lindsay Rutherford is putting together directions for that. I think it will go a lot better for you and a lot better for me trying to view them if we submit it that way. It could be an epic failure and we may have to go back to Titanium, but a few of you have been using Google Drive. It seems like it's going so much better on my end because the video comes right up and I don't have to wait 30 minutes before watching you in action. So we're going to try that out this week. Also, we need to be getting that parent permission form for the second student because I will not be grading or scoring any of your work with the second student until you have that parent permission form. So ideally you would turn that in this week. If not, you need it by the 26th, I believe, is when you are starting work with the student. So that is the absolute last day to turn it in. The next thing you're going to be working on doing is the participation activity, which is a Google Doc, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. Note on late assignments, just don't do it. All right, the Google Doc. Here is the link. It is all right, so here is the Google Doc. This is what it looks like. You can see that I already inputted the results for my student, so you can see the sample, but it has a spot for you to input your data for the MRP, the core phoneme deletion, the phonological segmentation, all the parts of the phonics, words their way, QRI narrative, QRI expository. So you will need to just look back at all of those assessments and record the information for your student because we will be using this with our RTI plan. So again, for week 8, you're going to add the data for your student and you're going to want to start to analyze for trends because for weeks 9 through 11, you're going to be analyzing all of the data, and then in pairs and groups, you're going to develop your RTI plan, which is due November 9th. So I will be explaining this assignment in more details next week, getting you guys in groups and pairs so that you'll be ready to go. And then we'll do a second RTI plan when we have completed our next 5 sessions, and that one will probably be done independently. All right, session 5, your last session with this student, is focused on fluency and comprehension. The big assessments that you need to give are the QRI for narrative and expository. So there are different genres within the assessment because oftentimes students can read better in one of the genres, narrative versus expository. Typically it's narrative. Think about you reading a novel versus you reading a technical manual. You're probably going to do a little bit better with the novel. But we want to be giving both the narrative and expository. In an ideal world, you would find the student's independent and instructional level for each of those. However, that would require you giving 4 assessments, which wouldn't be ideal to do. So at minimum, you should give 2, one for narrative and one for expository, and hopefully from that assessment you can determine if that's their instructional or if it's their independent, and if you have time, you may want to go up a level or down a level. Now, my friends, with kindergartners, you may have to get a little creative because they may not be able to do the pre-primer or the primer. So you may need to do more of a listening comprehension assessment instead of an actual comprehension assessment. I also know expository doesn't start until a certain level, so you may just need to do a few different narratives. So feel free to modify as needed, but you will need to submit a video of you administering the QRI. So keep that in mind. Also, given that this is the last week with this student, please, please, please plan a little celebration or recognition for them so that you can launch them on a good note. All right, upcoming assignments. WAPR number 5 is going to be due next week, so don't worry about that yet. Just worry about administering it, and next week we'll worry about scoring it. Fieldwork requirement, please be working on getting that parent permission form no later than October 26th. Session 1B is coming up around the corner. I put a 5-week session guide up on Titanium so you can see what the scope and sequence is with the next student. Essentially, we're starting in the same place. We're starting with that affective domain, but we're going to jump right into the QRI word list on session 1, so that way you can start with the QRI and then work your way backwards. Since we have an older student, hopefully they do have some foundational skills, so we're going to look at those first with the informal reading inventory and then decide from there what direction to go. Do they need some phonics assessments? Do they need some phonemic awareness assessments, or do we not even need to go there? So that will be the week of October 26th. Again, it's an interest inventory, the MRP or the adolescent MRP if they're above 6th grade, and a QRI 5 word list. So those are and the parent interview, of course. So those are the 4 pieces for your first session with the new student. All right, little heads up. Week 8, that is this week, you're administering the QRI, you're doing some readings, you're learning about that, you're doing your last session with this student, you have a video, you have a Google Doc, and you have a permission form. Next week, we are scoring the QRI, so you're going to be reading the chapters in QRI that pertain to how to score it. There's also going to be a few articles for you. You're going to do WAPR number 5 and start your RTI plan with your team. Then in week 10, you just have an article, but you do have your new student session. WAPR number 6 is going to be on the affective domain, and there is going to be no video happening. And we will also have a participation activity discussion on the article. So that is our plan for weeks 8 to 11. Again, everyone is doing a really great job. Just keep doing what you're doing, and I will start talking about fluency in our next part of the lecture.